Louder! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to hyPODermic, the pod that sticks you deep. I'm the pod boss, T.J. Bowser, and joining me as always is the maestro of mayhem, the dawn of disaster, the man himself, Mr. Nick Benson.
How are you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a little while. It's been a thing.
Yes, it has totally been a thing. It's been a while, and we here with season 2, and we got a special guest today. But of course, I will let you introduce him as always. Nick, go ahead.
We do, for sure. This gentleman I worked with on my first effects film, my first gig in effects, Night of the Demons. I met this gentleman, but he has a much longer career than just that. And I want to welcome Mr. Hal Havins.
Hey, how's it going, Nick?
How's it going, Hal?
And how you doing, TJ?
So he's here. He's just the ghost in the background for now. I'm sure he'll pop in and out.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about I don't know how much of the show you know about with how our format works, but I think I sent you something to check out earlier.
You did.
Just to kind of get familiar with it. Yeah, I mean, this isn't just about careers, it's about people. So I want to get to the core of, like, before you and I met, like, there was a whole story about Hal and how you got there. If you could kind of take us back on that path from whether it's a childhood memory or whatever, and bring us up to your career in film, what led you there?
I always wanted to do it since I was a child. I think I've told this story before in other places, but when I was a kid, they kind of do the same thing now. They have a lot of afternoon talk shows, and they used to, for a long time they didn't. They were out of vogue. So when I was a kid, a lot of afternoon talk shows, and they all had stand-ups on them.
Right.
And of course, my mom watched the soaps. So before I went to school, I'd see all this daytime TV, and I would go into the bathroom and reenact the scenes from the soaps or what I heard the stand-ups doing. And I don't know how long I did this, but I was too young to be able to look into the mirror. It was too tall. And I still remember the day vividly that I could see the top of my hair in the mirror finally. So I don't know how long I was doing that, but it was for quite a long time. Yeah. And I just always wanted to do it. And then I didn't. Of course, I got kind of, shy as a youngster. And so I didn't for a long time. And then got into high school. And I actually got talked into taking theater by a friend of mine who he had to take an elective English class. So he was in theater, and he's like, I don't want to be in here with all those dudes, man, all those people, all those weirdos. So why don't you take the class with me? So I'm like, all right, I'll take the class with you. I had to take an elective too. Very first day in the class, he tells the teacher to F off.
Oh, geez.
She throws him out. He looks at me like, well, come on, bro. And I'm like, yeah, later. And I never left.
Yeah. So
that's kind of the condensed version of my story.
Yeah, in a way, you were drawn to it then, right? So
I was always drawn to it. It was just like there's an aspect of my personality that doesn't want to be me.
Yeah.
And it's like Belushi used to say that the only reason he was any good on stage is because it was the only place in the world that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I kind of relate to that. It's like that's where I have my feet under me firmly,
Well, I think that's kind of where we all are, right? Like that's what gets us there is we find a place that we feel like we belong. And sort of grab onto it and try to work with everything we've got to do it. So I completely understand that. And then
exactly. I think we all do. I think it's just, you either attach to this stuff emotionally or you don't. And if you don't survive it.
Right.
Because it's too much of a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's not the easiest business to fall into, but you know, it's a lot of hard work. But I think that in a strange way, and I've said this probably 100 times, maybe more, that for me, you know, even as an artist, it's the largest collaborative art there is filmmaking, and it takes every artist that is in their specialty, whether it's sound or lighting or acting or whatever. It takes all of us doing a cohesive effort to create that piece of art. So, you know, I don't know. I've always been drawn to it too.
Yeah, exactly. No part of it is more important than any other part, because every piece is necessary to make it work.
Right.
Except maybe the director. That might be the most important thing. Somebody's got to have the vision that puts it all together.
Right. So in high school, you were in this drama class. Did you do like a bunch of plays, and did you get any early work, like commercials or anything?
No, I didn't do any. I did no film and television then. I started doing plays and continued to do plays through college, and then after college started doing local theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe 2 years of that, and I ended up in Los Angeles, and that was it. You know, Demons was like my second job.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what was the first?
What I did before that?
What would you do right before that?
I don't remember. I just said.
So let's see.
I think it might have been Whiz Kids. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was Whiz Kids, because you have Street Hawk on here too, but I don't know if that was.
Street Hawk was after.
Was it?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, Whiz Kids.
Man. I don't remember.
Whiz Kids looks like it's the first, but you have so many different, you know, from TV shows to film, that like it's pretty diverse. So you're kind of jumping around doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, I've been lucky. You know, I mean, I probably could have been more focused on acting, which I should have been. But you know, my problem is I love this industry.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, as long as I was involved in working, I was happy.
Yeah.
Right. I never went, oh, I got to get more auditions, or, I mean, I've said that, but it's like, if I was, you know, I spent as much time, more time in production than I did in acting. And I didn't care.
Wow.
As long as I was grinding out product, I was a happy guy.
Right.
You know?
Well, I'll be honest, I would have never guessed that Demons was only your second gig, because you really kind of immersed yourself in the character. Like, you were Stooge.
Oh, thank you. But you know, I had done like, I don't know, 40 or 50 plays by then.
Well, yeah.
So I'd had a decent amount of work.
Right. So you knew how to pull yourself into something. Is there anything in particular that helps you do that? I mean, there's people.
You mean in general?
Yeah, different ideals altogether. You have method actors. You have this. You have that. You don't seem like that.
In general, yeah. I'm an adherent of Stanislavski's technique,
right.
And that's what I teach as well. I've taught pretty much since I've been in LA. I became a teacher.
Oh, that's great.
The mid '80s. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Stanislavski. I think every other technique you hear of is a derivative of that, whether they want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. The method is a derivative of Stanislavski.
Right.
Some people kind of use the term interchangeably, but it's very different. They're two different techniques. But the Actors Studio is getting closer and closer to the kind of the original concept of Stanislavski.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's my whole thing. That's what keeps me going.
Right.
As far as an artist, you know.
And you enjoy teaching as well?
I love teaching.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to really love teaching.
Yeah.
Because I could never, you know, most students aren't, you know, I'm kind of an obsessive nut when it comes to acting. And most students aren't quite as obsessive as me. So It's like they don't understand when I say, you know, it takes every minute of every day. Your mind's always got to be on it.
Sure.
You know, and you always, it's like you always filter your world, your life, through your artist existence, right?
Right.
And if you don't do that, you're failing yourself and your art. And
Absolutely.
it's hard to find students that are that crazy. And what happened was
I don't think the word should be crazy. I just think it's invested.
obsessive.
You know? They have to be invested in it.
Dedicated is the word.
Dedicated is yeah, you have to be dedicated, but you got to be pretty invested in the work if you're going to do a good job, you know.
Well, any art form, well, anything in life. If you want to be great at anything in life, you have to be obsessive about it, basically.
Absolutely.
You know, and what happened was I kind of stopped teaching beginner actors, and I started only teaching professionals.
Okay.
And that made my life a lot easier because they wanted to do the work as much as I did.
Right.
So, you know, you had that level of dedication already instilled.
Right.
You didn't have to try to teach that love.
Yeah, you don't have to like do a sales pitch kind of thing that you want to be in this. You want to, you don't have to spend all your time on that.
Exactly, because you can't teach love.
No.
You just can't do it. You either love it or you don't. And one of the problems is it's a tough life, like we talked about in the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it's a difficult existence, and you have to, one of the things that I kind of focus on throughout the term that I'll teach is how to stay healthy as an artist, how to be, my age and still be a happy artist.
Yeah.
You go through 30, 40 years of getting whacked in the side of the head to get any kind of life out of this business.
Yeah.
And you want to be as healthy and happy as you can be when you're done as when you started. And
I think
you have to focus on that.
Absolutely. And I think most people that aren't in this business, the way to relate to that is like, imagine going to job interviews and constantly being told you're not good enough. I mean, that's really kind of what actors deal with, is like they constantly go on these job interviews and they're told, oh, you're not good enough, we're going to use this guy. So there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of, and it's that way even for special effects artists like myself. I mean, we go through that.
People in this industry are the only people that want to have a job interview every week.
Yeah, yeah.
Like nobody else wants to go through this crap. And that's usually what I tell people. If they say, "How do you become an actor?" I say, "Go to computer school."
Yeah,
that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Go learn to make the next Apple product, and then you'll be a happy person. But if you have to do this, then I can show you how to do it. But you have to do it.
You got to have that.
Have to do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what this is all about. It's about our passion and what drives us, and that's what the show's about. And
that's what's exciting about it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. That sense of discovery that it gives your passion someplace to go, and you have that sense of discovery on top of it. Every time you achieve something else artistically, you're like a 5-year-old that's been given a new candy. You're just thrilled with life.
I agree.
And if you do it right, you get that over more. And over and over again.
Yeah, and you want more, and you want the next one to be bigger and better, and
exactly.
It's like you keep wanting to grow that, so to speak.
Exactly. No, it's an amazing life. It's really, there's a lot of value in this life.
Yeah, truly.
Like I say, it is difficult, but it's pretty wonderful. There's nothing better as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So do you remember anything post Demons? Like I kind of like, we just really reconnected like in the last year. Like that was,
exactly.
So we hadn't seen each other in 35 years.
Yeah.
And, like I've seen what you've done, but I don't know chronologically where you went specifically after Demons. So
to Alf,
chronologically,
Alf.
Truth.
Alf.
It's funny because I was trying to think of. There was a strange audition. I was watching. What is that? Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
There is you and Alf, actually.
There you go.
Look at that little 12-year-old boy there. Holy crap! Where did he go?
Yeah.
But I was starting to think, the piece you sent me, something made me think about auditions and how they can be. Oh, I remember the person you were interviewing talked about an audition that they thought went bad that went well. And one of them popped into my head that was, one of mine popped into my head. And for the life of me, I know I booked the job. I have no idea what the job was.
Right.
I have no idea. I was like, man, it's a good story. I should tell that story. What was it? I only remember the audition. I don't remember shooting the job.
Yeah.
Let's just
Well,
say
that's the
let's
thing,
just
you
say
know,
it was silk stockings, okay?
Huh? No, it was well after that one.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That's what happens when we get old, Hal.
But there's a funny story attached with that. We were shooting that down in San Diego, and I think it was down there for 4 or 5 days. It wasn't that long.
Yeah.
I think it was a little less than a week or maybe a full week. My wife had a surgery, and she needed someone to help her. So I was shooting it, and then I'd wait for everybody to roll into their hotel rooms, and I'd jump in my car and I'd drive home to Los Angeles, take care of her, come back, shoot again, go back the next night, and I got caught on the last day.
Oh.
And they were pretty pissed. How long you been doing this? Pretty much every night. They were pretty upset. And the weird thing about it was, when I went back to San Diego to shoot years later, maybe it was before, Slime Ball, I had the same thing happen. I'd let everybody get in their hotel rooms. I'd sneak back to LA, take care of her. She had the same surgery twice is what happened. And, neck surgery. It's like once you have a neck surgery, that's it. You keep having them.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was funny, especially when I got busted.
Yeah.
I never got busted on sorority babes, though.
Well, they can't fault you for doing that. So.
Well, they can. It's
yeah.
First off, we're spending a lot of money on a hotel for you. Secondly, you're supposed to be here to work, not running around, dicking around in the middle of the night on the freeway.
So some of our Walking Dead listeners might recognize you from the Fear the Walking Dead series. You were able to do 2 episodes on that. You have any good stories from that?
Yeah, I was Rancher Bob.
Yes, you were.
Great gig. That was a great gig down in Rosarito Beach in Mexico. And I was down there for, I don't know how many weeks, but it was several weeks just to do both because of the way the schedule worked out. So I spent a lot of time just lounging on the beach. It was very nice. And
that's cool.
You know what? People like that show. There's a lot of folks that yeah, I know who Rancher Bob is. I was like, if you blinked, you missed me. But no, it was a good one, and it was a great job to work. There, most jobs are great to work because production teams are so professional,
Mm-hmm.
But that one really, they were a good unit. This was their 3rd season. They were already kind of locked in together, and it was just like every day was a breeze. Every day was just.
You've had a pretty diverse career between television and film. Which one do you prefer shooting?
I like film because it takes longer and you get paid more.
Okay, that makes sense.
But seriously, they always say, what's the good job? The good job is the one where the check clears.
Yeah.
When you depend on it, for your livelihood, you just want to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, too, it really, you can read a script and you go, oh, I hate this character. I mean, if you hate the script, if you hate the material, you're kind of in a pinch.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times you read it and go, I just can't stand this character. I can't see doing it. And you work on it for a couple of days and you're in love with it. Once you're emotionally invested in it, you're in love with it. End of story.
Right.
And you'll do it for the rest of your life if they let you.
Have you encountered
I
that
really
specific
don't
situation?
Have a preference. What?
Have you encountered that specific situation?
Where I've hated characters?
Yes, and then you grew to like them later on.
All the time, because I play a lot of really shitty people. And the first time I did it, the first time I ran into that was in college, actually. I'm trying to think of it was the last meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia, which was basically a play about a small clan group. And I hated that character. Couldn't stand that guy. But by the time I was done, I had it wired, and I had to find that, piece of me that let me do that material,
Yeah.
So over and over and over again, I mean, especially if you play these kind of characters, if you're a character guy, you're always going to end up playing ratty kind of characters, And the truth is, they're actually more fun. They're more challenging, and they do more interesting stuff. Heroes are boring. They're just pretty.
Oh yeah.
It takes a fat guy to get in there and really dig it out.
Put on a pig nose and make a memorable character.
What? What'd you say?
Oh, to put on a pig nose and make a memorable character.
Exactly, man. You need your pig nose for every character.
Absolutely.
Everything you do, you got to have your pig nose. You have to have that one thing that makes it just a little bit different, a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And whether it comes out of you or it comes out of, a plastic novelty bag, take what you can get.
Benson says you still rock the pig nose from time to time.
What's that?
Benson said that
rocks the pig nose?
You do.
Well, he should. That was one of his early gigs too, right?
Absolutely.
So hopefully the pig nose is a good memory.
It absolutely is.
Awesome.
It's funny because talking to you about all of this brings back memories of being there. And like I said, I never would have guessed that was your second film gig. But at the same time, thinking about what you've just been saying, as Stooge, like, yeah, he's kind of an asshole, but he's a really lovable asshole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you hope so. You can't play anybody 100% evil unless it's some kind of almost fictional evil character.
He's very relatable.
Yeah.
Everybody knows a Stooge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that was one of the reasons people like Demons is it was such a big cast, right?
Yeah.
And the characters were really archetypes, right? So it was like for everyone there was a character to like. There was a character to identify with.
All relatable.
Exactly. And it's like it doesn't matter who you were going to find one person out of the 9 that you kind of identified with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons people like the film. Other than that, it's funny.
Yeah.
But and it's a well done film. I mean, Kevin Tinney and David Lewis really they did an amazing job. And then you guys with that was kind of in the waning days really of practical effects. That was kind of like almost the goodbye to practical effects. And you guys really knocked it out of the park. You went above and beyond, especially for the budget you had.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate to be, on Steve's crew, and that was even a blessing for me because I hadn't done anything like that before, and I happened to be roommates with Steve, and I was doing stuff on a stage show with my band, and Steve just one day out of the blue said, "Hey, do you want to come make Rubber Monsters? I'm going to open my own shop. I'm going to do this film, Night of the Demons, and you want to come, make some monsters?" And I was like, and get paid for it? Hell yes. So, that's really how that started for me. And it's very fond memories of that. And I was a very nervous kid, but, I was just floored at the level of stuff that Steve could do for next to nothing.
Yeah.
So
that was at that point in time, it was one of my favorite places that I ever walked into.
Yeah.
With that shop.
Yeah.
He had just done, you reminded me, the other day we were talking about it, and you reminded me of whatever underwater movie he did.
Abyss?
The Abyss. I always say the wrong one. Because there was 2 that came out about the same time.
That's a James Cameron movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And he did, he built a bunch of these super deep underwater creatures that lived at lower levels, and if you remember they were clear gelatin.
Yep.
Well, and they were clear and they were lit with these blue lights in the film. And when I walked in there, they were all sitting on a shelf.
Yeah.
And they looked exactly like they look in the film.
That's rad.
And it was I was just like, I wanted to steal one so bad.
Did you? I should send you. So there was a love-hate relationship with that movie, and Steve had a big love-hate relationship with it. He said yes to everything, but hated it in the process because Cameron is really not the easiest guy to work for, but he knows what he wants, and he's done effects.
He has the vision.
Effects background, so Jim gets what Jim wants.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so
Well,
I
I mean,
remember
that's the
there's a
only way you
video
can make
floating
stuff
around
work.
YouTube. There's a video floating around a YouTube, and you'd probably hate seeing this. Steve takes one of those creatures and bashes it on the concrete at the shop.
Yeah, Steve, he expresses himself,
Absolutely.
and why not? You know, that's part of what this industry is. That a lot of us that really don't fit in most other places fit here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
this is where we
So-
get to be the rock stars. Is where we, and it's interesting that you teach, because I've just recently started speaking. I've spoken at a couple universities to film students,
Mhm.
and like one of the most recent things I did was I went with Brian Usna, and we did a thing with a university in Texas. And speaking to the students, it's interesting because they all ask, like, how did you know when you wanted to do what you wanted to do? And for me, it was like, well, I took several turns before I really grounded myself in something.
Yeah.
Like, I started out as a film editor, like I was an apprentice film editor, and then I made a right turn and did sound for a little while. And then I went and had the band and stuff. And then all of a sudden Steve's asking me to make monsters. And I'm like, oh, hell yes. So you never really know where you're kind of gonna land. But all I could tell those kids was try everything. You got to know the process anyway. So once you know the processes and you find what you want to do, you'll literally attach yourself to that.
But see, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, was that I loved it all. So I didn't care. I could be drafting contracts for commercials.
Yeah.
And I was just as happy as I was on screen. Maybe not quite as artistically fulfilled, but as long as I was creating, a second AD, location manager. I mean, I did everything other than operate a film camera.
Right.
I mean, that's the only job I think I never had.
Right.
And one of the big reasons for that is I'm colorblind. But I just love the industry, and like any place I landed, I was happy. If anybody asked me to do anything, I said yes. You know, and I loved it so much. A lot of times I did it for free.
Yeah.
I just show up. Sure, what do you need? And it's just
you do something.
Except for acting, I didn't act for free. Not money for that.
So I got a question for you. So you worked with Kevin Tenney, of course, on Night of the Demons, and then you did a follow-up film the year after with Witch Trap. What was it like going on set for a second time with Kevin, and do you have any good stories from that?
Kevin is about my favorite director that I've ever worked with.
Oh, okay.
He is always calm. He's always positive.
Yeah.
Like nothing ever rattles him. I only saw him get angry once on a set, and he was so calm as he was angry. And I was the only one that saw him because it was a private conversation was happening. And they just happened to walk where I was sitting. And when he was done, Kevin walked over to me and said, "Don't tell anybody." And walked away. But he just is. He's always that kind of calm, cool, collected guy. And so you stay calm and cool.
Yeah.
You know, and the one thing about acting is you have to always be in an even keel. You can't be worked up. It is so hard to do good work if you're in a chaotic state of mind. You know what I mean? And that's like, you know, one of the most amazing things I ever saw was on another film. This girl was having problems with her boyfriend. They had broken up, and I showed up on to shoot one day, and she was sitting there crying. And I was like, "What's the matter?" Her boyfriend had kicked in her front door when we were shooting the night before, stole her dog, and took it to Texas.
Oh, geez.
She was completely freaked out. And you know what she did that day? She worked. She kept shooting. She didn't complain. She focused, and she did her job. And like, that was one of the most amazing things I ever saw.
Yeah.
Because I'd be driving to Texas to shoot somebody at that point.
100%.
She was just there focused and ready to work. And it's like, that's what it takes. You have to be able to have that kind of mindset. And that's one of the reasons, you know, as being a crew member that's there for a lot of times in contact with artists, you don't let actors know when something's going wrong.
No.
Because you know, if you upset their mindset, the next take is going to suck.
Yeah.
And it's
you
always
can't.
about the next take. That's what we're all focused on.
Yeah, there's a flow, and then even if that flow gets broken, you have to just keep pushing forward and not look at
Exactly.
What I like to say is work in the solution, not in the problem.
Man, that's a good saying. I like that. I'll steal that. Throw it on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
But, yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's like the crew is always like that. Never let the actors know when something's going wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, everything could be burning down behind the set, and you just don't tell actors because we're all fragile and feeble. And again, we have to have 100% focus to work.
Yeah, if you're defocused, you can't give the 110% you need to give to the character.
Exactly. So, but yeah, Kevin, I mean, to go back to him, he's really a great captain of the ship. And, you know, I think he's probably, out of everything I've done, he's probably because he was the earliest too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he kind of set the bar for me. And I was like, well, that's how you behave if you're a director.
Right.
That's who you are. And so, except the one thing he'd drive me up a wall was if you do a take and you're not sure about it and you go, how was it? Kevin would always go, it's art. That was the standard answer. It's art. Shut up. Do it again. But so unless you were really off the beam, he wouldn't give you a lot of acting direction. He wanted you to kind of find it. And you know, rightly so. It's your job to show up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not his job to teach you how to do your job.
Absolutely.
Well, I think he too wanted you to sort of find that take that you identify with it the most, rather than him deciding, and then he can go through after that and decide where he thinks that it looks the best or the most.
Yeah, but there's the universal rule that we all hate our own work.
Yes, I know,
and I think you were telling me about that.
We've covered that so many times as artists. We're all our own worst critics, so we need that.
Exactly.
We need that other person to say, "No, man, it looks great." Like I've told tons of people the story about this sculpture that I destroyed. My wife kept saying, "I love that. Don't touch it." And one day I was just like, "Oops, it fell," you know, because I didn't want to look at it anymore. And she was kind of mad at me for a little while about that. But that's a very similar type thing, you know.
You know, I don't think you have the right to destroy your own work. I really don't.
Say that to my recycling bin.
We need to be responsible for our work. We're caretakers of our own work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. It's and I have learned to sort of accept what I've done for what it is, and it was another step in the next direction, rather than
that's the thing too. The flaws are a part of it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and for us, luckily enough, as actors, a lot of the time the flaws are the best part of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the things that, you know, you think, oh, it happened, it was a mistake. You fixing that mistake is much more interesting than what you were going to do originally.
100%. Yep.
Right.
No, to get back to it, you got to be responsible for your own work, and you kind of have to steward it. Kevin Tenney likes to tell a story about he was doing a Q&A. I think it was about Witch Trap, actually. And they were asking him questions. And at some point, he's, you know, because we all do it, kind of do self-depreciating humor. And he started beating up on the project a little bit. And he kind of noticed the audience was turning on him. And that's when the light bulb kind of went off in his head. He's like, you know, these people, they like your work. And if they like your work and you bag on it, you're bagging on them.
Yeah.
And they take it personally.
Yeah.
And I never did it again. I never used self-depreciating humor again. Not when it came to the work. I'll beat myself up all the time for fun, but not when it comes to work, and not when it comes to appreciating that, you know, fans like your work.
Yeah.
100%. And Kevin's a very underrated director in my mind. He did the movie The Cellar. Very never talked about film, and it's very well done. It came out for the first time on disc earlier this year, and it's probably one of the most underrated films I've seen in the last 10 years. It's pretty neat.
Really?
Yeah, Kevin does great work. It's just nobody ever talks about it.
Yeah,
that's very
true.
I've never heard of The Cellar, and I thought I knew everything he did. I thought I'd seen everything he's done.
other than Demons and Witchboard.
It's a weird folk horror type thing. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it,
well,
it,
you
it
know,
is.
I mean, he's pretty well respected in the horror genre, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, as far as I'm concerned, if you're respected in the horror genre, you should be respected everywhere.
Absolutely.
I know there's kind of a two-tiered system, but it's like I always get people a lot of, well, I'm not really into horror, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, do you like aliens? Yeah, I like that. Horror.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you like Silence of the Lambs? Yeah, it's good. Horror.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like almost every thriller you see
It's really horror.
They
yeah.
just call it a thriller because they don't want to call it horror. Every sci-fi you see is written on a horror structure.
Yes.
In fact, if you go to the writer's store and you ask for, they have these seminars, right, that they sell. And it's like, if you ask for the one on horror, it says how to write sci-fi and horror because they're the same structure.
Yeah.
And horror is like everywhere, you know. The monster, the only thing in a lot of thrillers is the monster is a human, but it's still horror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even I had to learn that lesson. I wasn't, sure I wanted to do demons. I was a dramatic actor, and that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend at the time was like, "Are you doing it?" I was like, "I'm not so sure." She's like, "Yes, you are." I remember the conversation vividly. That's all she kept saying to me. "Yes, you are." And so I was like, "Okay." And it was funny because she showed up on the set one day to visit me. She knew everybody on the set.
Oh.
She knew everybody. She knew everybody in the makeup room. She knew Davis Lewis. She knew like everybody. It was crazy. I was like, why the hell am I here? You around. But yeah, she had actually been in the industry a lot longer than I had at that point. So
it's kind of awesome to me to hear your perspective of Kevin, because and only because like, I've worked with a lot of different directors over the years, and I have to say that I have to agree with you that, and I just even talked about this a little bit on the new 4K release of Night of the Demons, that all I remember about Kevin was that he had a very good demeanor. And he was never rude. He was always funny. He always tried to keep things light and everybody happy.
Yeah.
So I don't ever remember too much like even though there was stress and stuff, some stuff didn't work and we had to redress stuff, and it never felt like a bad thing. It was always we were always having fun,
Well, that's the thing, like I say, a great director is a calm leader.
Yeah.
You have to keep people calm to keep them working well. Not just actors, but everybody else on the set.
Yeah.
If you start screaming and yelling and stomping your feet, nobody works at 100% because a part of their focus is on not making you mad anymore.
Well, not to out myself, but to like, it's almost like when you're an abused child and your parents are yelling at you about something. What do little kids do? They just shut down.
Yeah.
They're not really hearing what they did wrong. You just shut down.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't get past that. So it's again, working the solution, not the problem.
Yeah. You become the gray man. You ever heard that term, the gray man?
Yeah.
That's what abused kids do. They become the gray man.
Yeah.
You try to become that entity that nobody sees.
Yeah.
And they call it the gray man. It's actually a technique they teach in the military. And like the CIA, anybody who can be, captured in war or whatever,
right.
And they teach them this idea of shutting down all your energy so you don't draw people's attention. So you're the last guy to get tortured.
Right.
And they call it the gray man. And that's exactly what abused children do. Yeah. Abused women, the same thing. Abused anybody, the same thing.
Yeah.
You just shut down. You try to hide your energy so nobody looks at you.
Yeah, it really doesn't. In that situation, it doesn't help you move forward and figure out what you did wrong. You just shut yourself down so you're not.
Well, the problem is if you're an abused child, odds are you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
You're just a scapegoat for anger that's somewhere else.
Sure.
But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of fun stuff. We all got to spend a lot of time as actors dealing with is these kind of issues, you know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
but shifting gears from something sad to something a little bit more happy. What about Parks and Rec?
What about Parks and Rec?
You appeared on an episode that says there.
I did.
Yeah.
She's the funniest woman I've ever seen in my entire life. One of the funniest human beings on the planet.
I believe it. Amy Poehler is one of the one of the best.
We did on that show. You did like a few takes, 3 or 4, to get the script, and then you did another 40 to let her do what she does. And I swear to God, she never repeated herself once.
Oh, that's
every
cool.
time it was absolutely hysterical.
Wow.
And she just went and went and went, and we just shot it out until she finally went, okay, I'm done. And it was just, I don't know how they chose the edits they chose. She was just absolutely hysterical. Yeah, that was a great job. That was a great show to be a part of. And
that's awesome.
to sit, when I'm almost always when I'm on any job, unless I've really got to bury my head in the material, I'll just go hang around the set and I'll just watch what's happening. And that's one where, because of the way we're shooting, it wasn't an imposition for me to just sit there the whole day and just watch everything that went on. And they were, again, a really professional crew. They'd been doing it a long time by then. So everybody knew their niche. Everybody knew what they were doing. All the talent was just, they were all 100%. They were all so good. And it was just I don't know. I want to say it was only a day or two.
Wow.
Yeah. We were in an airport.
Mm.
I don't remember how long it lasted. But yeah, it was just, it was an amazing time to be there. I really enjoyed it. But the truth is, I enjoy almost everything I've ever done. I've only been on one job that I didn't enjoy. One job that was actually horrific. I won't say what it is publicly, but God, it was a horrible day. I've never been on a set that was so miserable in my life. In fact, the key grip was he'd already turned in his notice, and he was going to go to Hawaii and work on another show. And he literally every couple hours would shout out the countdown. 10 days left until I leave this effing job and never have to see any people again. And like literally 4 or 5 times throughout the day, he just shouted that out.
Wow.
And that was a rough gig to be in a situation like that. But I'd never been on any other set like that. Sets are usually everybody's great because if you're going to live with somebody for 20 hours a day, you hire the best person to hang out with.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that people don't tend to be shitty on set. It's because people pick good people to be around.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, it's like to go back to acting, it's one of the reasons we should really appreciate when we get work. Yeah. Because if you're on a feature, that director is going to live with you for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
He's going to live with you through pre-production. He's going to live with you during production and through post. He's going to be looking at your face every day, thinking about you every day. Or she. Some of the most popular directors I've worked with have been women, so I shouldn't use the term he. But they're going to look at you every day of your life for the next 1.5 years of their lives. And so we really should appreciate when they pull the trigger on you. When they choose you, that really says something.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, I go back. I love the people in this business. I love the business. Like I said, one bad day out of I don't know how many hundreds of days, thousands of days now.
Yeah, because you
had one bad day in my entire life here.
Yeah, you've done quite a few things, and circling back on that, like you were talking earlier about, liking film versus television, but I think that like I've done a little bit of both, but what I've found is just that television to me is so much more hectic. There's so much more prep time, in my opinion, for film than for any kind of series or television it's just such a crazy and like, not that I don't know how to do my part of it, but for
Yeah.
actors, like looking at you as an actor and having to jump into those roles, it's like you don't have the kind of prep time that you would on a film. So
No, you get a lot more
like,
time on film. That's true.
yeah, I've
But
always kind
the
of
only
been
reason
in
I said I
wonder.
like film more, I mean, that's one reason is because you get more time to work. But the only reason I said I like film more is because I've had longer film jobs than TV jobs.
Right,
TV, you're usually in and out in a couple weeks, or a week or a day,
right,
Whereas film, if you got a decent role, you're going to be there for a month, 2 months, whatever.
well,
And so that'll pay you for the entire year. Whereas
yeah.
TV pays you for a month or two.
Yeah. Well, what's most interesting about that is like we had my friend John Tague on, and he did some soap opera stuff, and I thought it was really interesting that he was like, "Oh no, we didn't know anything. They just hand us our lines, and it's live to tape, but you don't really get prep time. You just get here's your lines. They change them several times, and it's got to be really hard to just jump right into that and not really have a lot of prep,
But you'll run into that, everywhere.
Sure.
Film, television, you'll run into that. You show up in the morning, you're like, here's the new pages. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I've spent how long working on this stuff?
Yeah,
And
you
you're
have
giving
to
me
be
new
pretty
pages now?
resilient. You have to
But
be
that's the
pretty
thing,
resilient to do that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying you have to be pretty resilient to be able to deal with that because it's constant change.
But the thing is, once you know the character and have kind of built the parameters of everything you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
changing it isn't that tough.
Right.
It really isn't, because you're just putting new conditions on the same character.
Yeah.
And theoretically, you should have that character built enough that you can and like for me, any aspect of his life, I'm going to understand already
Sure.
because I've already done that work. And so if you throw new dialogue at me, it's still the same person.
Not a big deal. You're just taking it a different direction.
And if it's a lot, yeah, it's hard, but it's not murder. But
Right.
also too, in film and television, we tend to work in 30 seconds to 3-minute snatches. It's not like you're walking on stage and doing a 90-minute play.
Right.
So if you blow one take because you didn't remember 2 words, well, you'll get it on the next take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, the director might hate you.
Yeah. Sure. So kind of wrapping this up a little bit, or starting to wrap it up. What kind of advice would you give if our listeners wanted to become an actor or they feel driven to do so?
I told you, go to computer school. That's where the money is these days. With robotics, that's another good one.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to be a robotics mechanic. Just a little bit of hydraulics. It's not that tough. No, what advice I would give is study. Study, because you're going to end up studying for the rest of your life. You don't learn this stuff in a year or 2 or 3. You spend your entire life studying and working. Study, and do theater. Everywhere you live, there's local theater. There's theater in school. There's theater, there's local theater, community theater. There's regional theater. Get on stage as much as you can and study. And that's it. That's the best start right there.
Yeah.
And then, when you come to LA, sell your soul at the door and you might get lucky. You kind of do. That's like a nasty way to say it, but you kind of do have to sell your soul. You have to give yourself over to this as a career. You got to give yourself over to it. I know it's like kind of a stereotype, the whole, all you care about is, whatever your career is. But if you're going to be great at anything, you kind of have to give up a lot of the rest of it.
Right.
To excel. And that could be if you want to be a captain of industry, where are you going to be 80 hours a week? You're going to be in your office. You don't make $500 million a year not working.
Yeah, I suppose that's true with just about any vocation, right?
Exactly. That's my point. And if you want to be a great artist, which hopefully we all want to be, we're all striving to be, whether we get there or not, you got to put the time in. I've always said there's nothing to success like not quitting.
Yeah.
Put in the time. Just give it the time. Keep working, keep working. You know, maybe you're not going to be Brad Pitt or George Clooney, but you know, you're going to have a fulfilling life if you work hard enough and make it work.
And you'll get knocked down a lot, but you just got to dust yourself off, get back up, and move forward, right?
That's part of the fulfillment. You know what I mean? You get knocked down 20 times, and then it works once.
Yeah.
And it makes all those 20 times worth it. You know, it's like door-to-door salesmen. You know, salesmen have this saying. It's like, I want to get to the no quicker than the yes. Because I know if you're not going to buy, I send you away and I go to the next door.
Yep.
You know, because I'm trying to get to that yes, but I need to get to the no first. And it's the same way, you know, it's the same thing with us. We're salesmen. When we go in every day auditioning, we're selling ourselves. We're selling our craft. And you got to get through the no's to get to the yeses.
Yeah.
And at some point, the yeses outnumber the no's. And it starts to get sweet, you know? And that's really all I can tell you, you know? I remember one time I was cleaning out my car early in my career, and my wife was with me, and I was pulling crap out of the trunk. And I used to always just throw my sides in the trunk when I was done with an audition.
You had a lot of junk in your trunk.
But, yeah, exactly. Well, I still do, trust me. It's just more wobbly now. And I was pulling out these sides, sets of sides, which is the script you get to audition with. And I was like, I started making a pile. Book that, didn't book that, book that, didn't book that. And the booking pile was like 2 inches high. And the didn't book pile wasn't even a half inch high.
Right.
And that's when I realized, oh, I'm doing something right. You know, everything I pulled out of that trunk, almost I booked.
That's awesome.
Maybe I just crumpled up the ones I didn't book and threw them away. I don't remember. But I do remember there's like, that was really a visual of, you know, the work pays off. You just have to do the work. And you have to put the time into it. And, you know, it's like, on average for TV, even for film on average, you know, it's true for film. But on average for TV, we get 3 days to work with material to audition. And my opinion is you work all those 3 days. You spend every minute of those 3 days working. That's it. You don't go to a movie. You don't go on a date. You work. And when you walk in on that fourth day to audition, used to be we had to show up, you're going to be great. Because they only give you generally 1 to 3 scenes. Sometimes they're crazy. But you have 1 to 3 scenes and you have 3 days to work it out.
Right.
You're going to be fantastic if you put in 76 hours or 78 hours, whatever.
Very true.
You're going to be fantastic. But you have to put in that work. If you put in an hour a day, you're going to be mediocre at best.
Right.
You know, so you put in the time. Like you, how long have you had to spend just sketching and drawing and creating to get to the point you can build like those masks you built for that? You know, how long does it take to develop the skill to do that? How many decades?
Oh, I'm
That
still
doesn't
learning.
happen overnight.
I'm still learning. There's people that can sculpt circles around me, but still, you know, to me, it's always a growing thing, you know, and it's not, you know, I don't know. And I think growing as an artist, you never master anything. If you're really a true artist, you're constantly learning new things.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's what I was just saying. You know, you're constantly learning, you're constantly working at it, always studying, always finding the, you know, I've got a whole stack of acting books over there I keep reading all the time. New teachers that I never knew wrote a book that I find them online, and I'll just buy it. Actually, what I'll do is, and this is a good hint for everybody, because an acting book's going to cost you $25 on Amazon. But if you go to the used bookstores, once you find the title, you can get it for $5, $7. So for that $25, you can get 5 or 6 books. Now, your first acting books should be Stanislavski's acting books. And they are Creating Character, An Actor Prepares, and what's the third one? An Actor Prepares, Creating Character, Building a Role, Creating a Role. I can't remember the third title. But they're the 3 standards of Stanislavski. Those should be the first books you buy. And they're great because they're not really dry tomes about this is what you do and here's lessons. They're actually written from the aspect, the first two are, of a student that goes to the Moscow Art Theater to study. And it's kind of his diary. And so it's kind of a creative way to give you the technique. But yeah, anyway, go back to that. Go back to falling on the master again.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Hal. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, same here, man.
I love you, brother. And I look forward to the next time we get to hang out together.
You bet. I love you back. And thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. TJ, I got it right now.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. And, it was a pleasure. And hopefully we'll see you on another show soon.
And thank you for joining us on our season premiere of Hypodermic. And of course, all you listeners out here, thank you for joining us on our season premiere as well. And we will be back later this season with plenty more episodes, lots more ALF related stuff, I hope. Yeah. It's going to be a wild ride this season. So just stick along, listen, tune in, watch, do whatever you need to do. We're going to be available on all platforms as always. And of course on projectlouder.net. This has been the pod boss, TJ Bowser, signing off. That is the Maestro of Mayhem, Nick Benson. And that is Hal Havins. Hal Havins, that one guy from that one thing that you may know. Have a good day.